Thank you, Piret. I also want to welcome all of you here, the speakers and the audience. And today I think we are discussing a very interesting, long-standing question, whether academia should meet industry and vice versa, and who wins, who gains, who loses, or everybody eventually are winners. So some of the most transformative things that we have today, from the Internet of Things, machine learning, the mRNA vaccines, all of them started from a lab, from a university lab, and became real through collaboration with the industry. And people who were willing to invent, and people who would like to build actually on these inventions. And every time a researcher and a builder sit together and they're very willing to listen to each other, something important shifts. Ideas that were stuck on a paper now start moving. And problems that the industry couldn't solve alone, now because with the discussion with the university, these ideas have a new angle. And technologies that might have taken a decade to reach all of us now arrive faster, sharper, and are very, very useful. So I would say that people who understand that, they don't sit on one side of the fence, but they cooperate with each other, they change the world. And today, we have people in this room, and especially at this table, who are researchers, builders, and leaders. People who are actively living this collaboration. So this is not a rhetoric question, but it's our reality, and it is the reality of today's meeting here at Snappi. So I will go with some rounds of questions here to all of you. And I believe each one of you has crossed between these two worlds, between industry and academia. And I will start with Gabriella. Gabriella is a PhD holder, is an industry expert, so she moves between these two worlds. And Gabriella, when you were evaluating to build something in your life, in general, does academic research informed you at all? Did you use your academic background, or you just follow market signals?
I guess both. So good morning to all of you. So my name is Gabriella Kindert. I'm the CEO of Snappi, and as you said, Claire, I have been a practitioner and a researcher as of today. I do, first of all, believe that everything I learned 5 years ago is obsolete. And I do believe in lifelong learning. So for me, it's not a choice to keep learning and fall back on research. It's a must. And that's what I expect from myself, and that's what I expect from the people who work with me. So I every time I do observe signals, I go back to research and see, okay, what has been said about this? And actually, as even yesterday evening, when I was researching, okay, I have a problem, how can I find some academic links to find an answer to this problem? And the problem was fraud detection. And I was just thinking, what has been written about it in the last 6 months? Okay, I finished my PhD 6 years ago. All the people I'm working with, they finished their studies 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And what is relevant today was written in the last 6 months. 12 months. So it's over, and I think this symbiosis between academics and practitioners can be extremely powerful.
That's very right. So yes, because the technology moves so fast, everything becomes obsolete. But again, the skills are there. Once you train yourself how to think, how to search and research, the skills are there, and of course they're handy anytime you need it. So this is a very good, resort if you want to combine market signals and academics. And I guess Gabriella is doing this very, very right. George, now to you. A very simple question, but we know with important implications. How useful you think is your research when it comes to the reality, when it comes to industry, and especially to Snappi? Do you find any linkages between what you're doing at the university and what you can do in an industry, in a financial sector, or in a company in particular, like Snappi?
All right. First of all, my area of expertise is behavioral economics and finance. So it is a field that you are actually departing from classic economic theory and you are moving to finance by using some specific behavioral models in order how to assess different situations when you are about to make a decision, financial decision. When we started here at Snappi discussing about this project you are listening about, the good thing was that Snappi was engaging the discussion. It was really interested in about learning how these models can be actually implemented in practice. So there is an AI hype the last couple of years. The truth is that actually very few people really understand what this is about. So it's not just riding the wave of artificial intelligence. You actually need to take this very specific technology and adjust it in your specific needs and more specifically to your business goals. So my research that has to do with actual mathematical models that you feed data and these models create outputs. The key question was, how are you going to exploit these outputs, use the information that is derived, and Snappi take this information, incorporate or embed it in their business model in order to make their business more efficient in the years to come.
And I guess this is not an easy road, right? It has lots of bumps. You have to try and you have to correct the error and try again. So it's very difficult to adjust and calibrate the research that you learn from the university, the model that you work in an amphitheater, with a real life actually modeling. And you have to cooperate with people and requires actually lots of skills. And you're not just a researcher, you're actually a person that can now contact people, listen to people, come back to the lab, work the model again, calibrate the model, and bring it actually in fine-tuning, right?
In my opinion, this is the true job of an academic researcher. You actually want to depart from these silos that have been created the last years, academic silos and business silos. You have to interconnect them. And when you are an academic researcher and you are building something, you are innovating in mathematical models or data analytics, you actually need to take all these theories, you need to take all these tools out in the wild, see how these things operate, assess whether the results are good or bad, iterate, and then end up creating something that is combines two things. First of all, it combines scientific rigor. You are not building something that it's pointless on a scientific base. And secondly, you need to take into account agile development that the fintech industry is all about. And you also need to change the pace of how you do things. It's a thing that usually academia has a slow pace. Fintech industry has a high velocity pace, so you need to combine these two. On average, to create something that's moving, day after day.
To me, it's like a marathon that 2 or 3 people run together and they have to synchronize the pace. But in the end, actually, eventually, the winners are the ones who have stamina and they communicate effectively with each other. And now we will move to Nikos, the IT guy here. Nikos, what does good research actually look like from your point of view? I mean, what you would expect from a university or researcher to deliver to you, to make your life easier here, for instance, at Snappi?
First of all, good morning, everybody. I've worked in multiple industries, and there are 3 key elements here. One of it, and the most important, is it resolving the research? Is it solving a real problem, a practical problem? And it's critical because then you can actually affect people's lives and make a difference. The second important part is the research transparent and explainable? So everything we do, can we follow it step by step? It's not a black box. The third one, is it feasible? Can we build it? A research that cannot be applied, an experiment that we cannot experimental, it doesn't work. So these are three key elements. It needs to be practical, it needs to be explainable, and you need to be able to build it with the current technology. Otherwise, you put it aside until such a time comes.
This is very true, actually, and because you're the practitioner here and you combine research and transform research into a product, clear directions and guidelines are very, very important, because otherwise it's very hard to communicate. There is so much great research, basic research at the university, and this cannot get out, or when it gets out, it's not clear the form, so that can be confusing, and then it can isolate the university from the industry. I will switch back to George, because George is the amphibian here. He works at the university and he is a partner of Snappi. And I will ask actually a very simple question. George, what's the biggest misconception researchers have about industry?
Maybe the biggest misconception is that the industry is building models that are shallow and not scientifically rigor and robust, and they always, it's like, you know, this, you're having this in mind, that the industry is always moving fast. They are already interested in acquiring customers, in exceeding their capital, improving sales, making profits better, reducing losses, etc. And they do not care about the models that are employing, for example, in their mobile application. So I think this is not the case, especially for Snappi. For example, this system we are developing, we have been talking about it over and over. So it really has to do how the management team of the business that is interested in innovating in a certain area, how willing is to discuss, how open is to new ideas, but by always taking into account the scientific fundamentals that will not end up destroying their business model.
Mm-hmm. And Nico, what would the industry have to offer for collaboration with the university? What the university can gain from the industry?
What they can gain?
More.
We have a lot of data, and this is quite useful so that you can run large models. We can offer a space, an environment where you can do safe experiments, essentially. And this is where you put your theories in practice, get feedback, go back to the beginning, redo them. And one of the most important aspects, in my opinion, on places like this, the close collaboration, building up close relationships and bouncing ideas from one another. This is something that the business can give to research, that, you know, we have this practical problem. And Jorgo can say, well, we have this theory that maybe we can combine them. So the close collaboration in a safe environment is critical.
Can I add to that? You know, we are in the financial sector, right? Financial innovation. I have been in this business for 30 years, and I have seen a lot of innovations that actually ended up disastrous. And I think these innovations could have been avoided with better academic rigor. And when we talk about money, sometimes people are not as controlled by the stakeholders because we are creating profit. So look at Nick Lisson, for example, at Bearings. When things are going right, nobody is raising the alarm bell. And I think for me, a great corporation is also a risk management tool for the industry. And I'm fundamentally convinced that a closer collaboration between these silos, because silo means also different perspectives, is one of the best risk management tool everybody in the industry should be embracing, including the regulator. So I would love to see more and more, like we have seen, for example, Philips coming from Eindhoven Technical University and collaboration with Delft, or or a number of other great practices, MIT, Stanford, Silicon Valley, Unilever, Wageningen. So there are so many great examples of great collaborations. I think we need to do more here, also in the financial sector.
Yes, the North Europe, Scandinavia, and UK and US and Germany are great examples where the university reaches the industry and vice versa. And there are industrial PhDs, actually, that try to solve problems that the industry sets. And also the industry gets interest into the university research, and you know the outcomes. We live the outcomes every day. Gabriella, before asking a question, you mentioned about failure. Why you think failure is a case when the industry works solely on its own? Why do you think these innovations could fail? It's because the industry rushes to reach the profit faster? Is it because they don't have the knowledge? Is it because they're too arrogant, big egos? They dismiss the university because it's very slow. Any reason for this?
I think there's a lot of positive bias and lot of growth hormones in the industry. Let's put it this way, fueling untested models and with lack of academic rigor. Yes, very often. Lack of people asking the question, am I so brilliant or am I stupid? And I mean, there is a lot of fundamental research also on that the trader, if he's outperforming, he's thinking, oh, am I brilliant? He's not asking, am I so stupid? Yeah?
Yes. Or maybe, I think, this is my guess, they rely on the very, conventional wisdom that says university dropouts like Steve Jobs, became very successful without having any university training. So if people think like this, I think this is a misconception for me, because this is an outlier.
Yeah, there is
it's
also
not always the case here, right? I mean, maybe there are 2, 3, 5 cases in the world that can be successful without university, but this is not the mainstream.
And there is also another thing. I think in financial sector, value is created by liquidity. Liquidity is created by buzz. And we have seen this in the tulip crisis, if this is, I tell you, this is €5, he thinks it's 10, he thinks 20, suddenly others think it's 50, right? And there is a disconnect between real value, economic value, and liquidity-driven value.
Correct. A strong background is also always very, very important, actually, tool. And so, Gabriella, you are the mind of the Snappi here, and you run Snappi daily, and you have to take some important decisions. How often do you resort back to your academic knowledge? Can you give us an example where your academic knowledge, your PhD, was actually useful, or it's just good for searching machines in the internet and, moving easily from theory to practice? I mean, can you recall any case where you say, oh, well, this is actually was very useful because my professor or my experience at the university taught me this, so I can bring this knowledge here in Snappi?
Every day. Every day, that's the truth. It's not about what you learn, but the fact that you recognize that you better ask a lot of questions and you need to have a very sound conceptual framework. I think what you gain by studying is understanding how little you know and understanding how important it is to take into account other people's opinion. And that framework is extremely powerful no matter what you do. I can paint a wall, I can pick plants, I can do research on credit rating or behavioral models. I had a lot of heureka moments, by the way, when I was getting out of university, started my career in Mace Pearson, and I was shifting away from the industry, and we did credit risk rating models, and I realized what a loss when I realized how advanced the academic research was on the subject. And nobody in the room from the bank realized that maybe we should connect with the academics. And I think I only realized when I started when the crisis happened and I reflected on it, what we missed and what the digital transformation means to us, and went back to university and went back to study different organizations, that I am responsible also to bring these partnerships together, these silos together. And I have a lot to do, but the academics also have a lot to do. I see a lot of outdated articles, long time to publish something. And I think this needs to change. So I would love to create less silos, and I would like to have more agility and speed to market.
And I think you did it to a certain extent, because half of people here are from university. We are researchers, docs, postdocs, students, masters, and people from the industry. So this is a very nice, actually, meeting here, and thank you for this. Nico, as everybody knows, many AI breakthroughs, any groundbreaking AI work comes from the academia. And yet, as you mentioned before, very few make it into production. Especially in a highly regulated industry as the financial sector is. What are the key conditions so that research successfully transitions from the university lab to the everyday life?
Again, you need to start with the data. The more you have, the more data points there are, the more accurate your models are, statistically speaking. But to get there, you also need to have the regulatory constraints in mind from the beginning. These are things, especially in banking, but also in other areas, that you cannot avoid, you cannot work around, you have to deal with it from day one. And there needs to be very strict engineering discipline in what you create. These are critical conditions. Otherwise, you do not pass the smell test. It won't be accepted. And I've seen it in previous industries as well, especially with HIPAA regulations, medical, that you don't even get through the door. If you don't have certain certifications, if you don't have certain constraints in place, it doesn't fly. And this is the critical part.
And how one can ensure that AI systems in the banking sector remain transparent, fair, accountable, while still benefiting from modern predictive power? How can combine these two actually worlds?
It has to do a lot less about AI and more about humans in this case. So the AI needs to be essentially monitored for fairness. It's very easy to create biases for groups, so we need to constantly monitor that from a human perspective. The human oversight is also very important. We need to be able to essentially stop it on its tracks, correct it, and then let it go again. And I guess the AI part here is that it can very quickly create patterns. It can very quickly understand trends. And this again goes into the feedback loop to the human. Does this pattern, does this trend actually make sense from what we're seeing in real life? So it can very quickly help us. It can very quickly, if we don't look at it from a very strict perspective, it can very quickly lead us to situations where they're completely inhumane.
Gabriella, you are building a digital bank in a very high-tech environment. And also you launched the Snappi Fintech and AI Lab. So eventually, Snappi is creating a bridge between university and the industry. What do you hope this collaboration will deliver in these upcoming years, both for innovation, for Snappi's innovation, for the clients, for the researchers, for the students? Any ideas?
Of course. We have a huge challenge we are trying to solve. You know, a significant part of the population is unbanked today in Greece. Significant part of the population has no access to liquidity. How you get access to these people? How you assess the creditworthiness of these people when you have no data? How do you limit the fraud coming from these segments of people? How do you distinguish between credit risk, fraud risk? What are the relevant data sets? What are you missing? How can you gain access to data? Via mobile phone, via emails, via what? In the regulatory framework, how do you utilize the data for the benefit of the clients above all? Because we are all here for you, if you're a client. We are all hoping to create value. And the shared value creation between you as a client and me as a shareholder, or as a management and my shareholders, is a balance we need to find. That you have a sustainable, good product in terms of credit solutions, and for me, for my shareholders, I can deliver a proper, sustainable return. And that's the best for everybody, but it's not so simple as it sounds. How do you get the pricing right? How do you get your risk assumptions right when you don't have data? When you are banking for an unbanked population, you have no data set. How do I get my pricing right? On assumptions, right? Which needs to be backtested. Am I having the right data set? So this risk management tool, academic rigor, having different ideas, this diversity, these silos are wonderful because it means that you are thinking differently than me, potentially. So bringing this together, helping the clients and creating great success stories of banking better.
Benefits actually everybody, including students, university students, who can come here, can be challenged either here at the university, solving problems of the financial sector, or discussing opportunities or challenges. So this is a system, actually, an ecosystem of research and knowledge creation.
I would like to correct you because I am actually learning more from the students than the other way around. Let's be honest. And if I don't realize this at my age and as a management, I'm doing something really wrong, really wrong. We all know that if we have children at home, how much your existing framework, thinking framework is being challenged by your children. That's wonderful. And I want to embrace it.
Especially in the AI, high-tech, actually technology sector, right? Because children, students eventually are very fast forward-moving and they have solutions that we don't even have answers or questions to the solutions, and the solutions are there. The only thing is we have to go and reach them and say, well, here is the problem, what you can do for us. And I'm sure that this actual cooperation can have great potential because people, especially young people, like to be part of this exciting future. Because this is their future, the technology, right? And Nikos, because you are again the tech guy here, and you can work with George or other tech people, how is your daily life when you work with a researcher, with a person who is doing research at the university and then is called to work with you? Is there any friction? Does it move smoothly?
It's fascinating.
Fascinating.
Researchers have a new way of looking at things. They haven't been dumbed down by the constraints of the industry, of the best practices that we have. This is how we've always done things, etc., etc. So they bring that new perspective is amazing. From a production point of view, the engineers, they bring the actual constraints, the regulator, the reliability, high availability aspects. But there's a missing link here, and that is product. They bring the customer experience into the game. Because at the end of the day, you need to go from an idea to a system to how can I improve the life of somebody. And I believe that with Yorgos here and the Financial Resilience Index, it came from research. We're starting to build a production system, and essentially we're trying to help people make better financial decisions. And I find that fascinating.
There is no any friction when it comes to time constraints, because researchers take their time to build the hypothesis and then the model and to test the model, while the builders, because to me you look like a builder, George the researcher, the builders want to build the product probably fast, so they can be the first at the market. Is there any time consistency here when you work with a researcher, or you can pass it over because good communication solves many problems anyway?
I want to build it fast, but I want to build it safe.
And then the research rigor comes.
George wants to test quickly and find a better model. There is always going to be friction, but this is actually helpful friction.
Good.
Because
it's productive friction.
We hold each other accountable.
I totally agree. George, your research introduces two concepts that I would like to unpack for the room, for everybody. The first is the Financial Resilience Index. And then the other is Fiona, an AI system designed to act as a financial co-pilot. Let's start from the Financial Resilience Index. Before, we used to actually take a look at the balance in our account and see actually what to do, how to plan. And slowly, we start moving as a society, or as the concept is here at Snappi, at the well-being indicator. Can you tell us a few things about the Financial Resilience Index?
Well, yes, of course. Everything started with a research from Estonian university together with an Austrian one. It's called Beyond Money. So the research is all about how you can actually improve the financial well-being of individuals given their banking or financial behavior, and there are three pillars for it: foundation, pleasure, and freedom. So when I was reading this research, I was struggling to think how you can actually take this theory, create a mathematical model, and put it into play. So the first key insight, actually when I realized it, is that when you are looking at your bank balance, you are actually looking at an indicator that has some kind of lag inherent in it. So the number that sits there is actually the outcome of all your past financial behavior. So when I was designing this mathematical function, the Financial Resilience Index, which has three components: buffer, stability, and momentum, is a way to capture financial behavior based on these three pillars. How you can actually buffer your finances against any potential black swan events in your life, how you can actually have a stability regarding any variability in your income, and then how you can actually create a trajectory path so the system can actually create an early warning signal if something appears not to getting right. So you have this mathematical function, and you have an AI system. An AI system by itself, it's something that maybe most people in this room can actually build one. But how do you take this AI system and make it super and hyper personalized in order to create specific advice and guidance based on your digital behavior and your traits on your digital behavior? So Fiona is taking the Financial Resilience Index, it's taking the macro environment of the whole economy, is using use cases where there are specific ways how to build it based on personas, on behavioral economics and finance. You blend these things up, and so Fiona is creating a personalized response to Gabriella when she's chatting with the system, not a generic advice, not something in general, but very targeted based on Gabriella's way of she's interacting with the system. So it's actually is also taking into account the sentiment analysis and her transactions, so her actual financial balance sheet, let's say.
So in other words, Fiona is rooted, it hinges on the behavioral economics and financial, actually, theoretical paradigm. These are conceptually it belongs there.
Correct.
Then mathematics come into play, and we deliver an index which is more complex. So it doesn't say, well, you have this balance, and actually you have to do this or that, but it takes more into account. It takes your lifestyle, your preferences, and gives you actually advices. Well, if you like to go, as George likes to mention frequently, if you like to go to bouzoukia or to bars and you spend most of your money there, then Fiona comes and says, well, maybe you spend too much there. You know, you have to recalibrate your spending because your saving account would have a problem in the near future. So this is it's a kind of personal assistance that does not actually exist in many other banks, I would say. Yes, Gabriella.
Can I give another example? You know, my daughter asked me a very important question. Is it a good investment? Because she was considering buying an apartment. Is it a good investment? And I looked back at her and I said, is this the city you want to live in? Is this what makes you happy? I mean, return on investment does not take into account personal preferences. You can have a great return on investment and your entire life is miserable. And we help with that. Or at least we will be able to help with that in the future.
This is very spot on because exactly, banking especially, I wouldn't mention life because life is something bigger. What makes happy, you know, it depends on person to person, and returns on investment does not capture many things, actually. It's only what can be measurable. There are many things that cannot be measured, but what Snappi and George are doing here is that your life is not only a very static, very plain banking account. It's something bigger. It encapsulates more things that are very important to you, not necessarily to me, but to you. And this type of AI programming that allows and accounts actually preferences and put human being at the center, not just some plain numbers, are becoming very important. Because for me, going for vacation or meeting my parents very frequently could be very important, and this, the algorithm should take it into account. It's not like I'm piling up, you know, wealth and enjoying my life when I will be 67, close to my retiring plan. And I want to live my life now, and I have choices, and these choices should be taken into consideration. And this is what the algorithm is doing. George, another question for you. We still have a static application everywhere. For instance, in different services, there is a chatbot that, you know, you have some minimum conversation with this. Are we moving to empathetic conversation that could redefine the whole relationship with money? Can Fiona be very empathetic? Can we move to conversational banking?
Actually, Fiona is going to do conversational banking, and the main reason for it is that the long-standing question regarding the banking industry is whether and how you assess trust. And here in Greece, for many years, we had this kind of feeling that banks are our opponents, are instruments of evil, and they will try to capture and enslave us, and especially if someone goes to take a loan, etc. So this thing has to change because it is not, it's not the case. So when you are having all these mathematical tools, this crazy AI system that are super intelligent regarding recognizing patterns, they are still machines. What you need to do is inject somehow in this system emotional intelligence. So this is the key element that diversifies Fiona from every other financial generic chatbot. We're actually injecting emotional intelligence, giving some specific instruments in the system. So this conversational banking system is going to actually be empathetic, is always going to take the side of the client by at the same time taking into account the prerequisites, the needs, the business model of Snappi.
So it can be a meditator, actually, between two worlds that eventually will maximize the value for the client.
True.
And for the bank. Okay, I need a last comment from each one of you, less than 1 minute. Nikos, I will start with you. What's the takeaway from this discussion? What's the message for you?
AI has brought a new paradigm shift in our society. And the research is a much necessary position that we need to take and use that research and build the systems with the human, our fellow citizens in mind. So this collaboration, this breaking of silos, for me is the most important part. And the financial sector is a place to start.
George?
Well, I think that what Snappi is doing the last months, that it's trying to combine academic society with the business society, is actually giving Snappi a competitive advantage because it's diversifying its human capital within the business, and I believe this is the best way to hedge against the future of any potential, breakthroughs, events, or anything that are sure that will going to happen.
Gabriella, your thoughts?
Thank you. For, first of all, being grateful. I truly enjoy our cooperation, to start with. Grateful. Second, shared value creation. How together we will be able to pass on the benefits of AI for the clients in the financial sector. And that says it all.
I'll have a couple of seconds. My very plain closure for today. Gratitude is a very important thing. So I'm very grateful for being here, meeting new people, and extending university into interesting business stuff, because Snappi is doing something very interesting here. At least it connects two worlds, because academia and industry are not very well connected in Greece. Outside Greece, there are very grateful, paradigms that are very successful.
We can change this, yeah?
But slowly.
The best way of changing it is creating great examples.
Exactly. And I would say that the future of finance won't be written by banks alone or by researchers alone. Snappi didn't wait for the future of finance to come. They started building it now. Thank you very much for the great discussion. Thank you all for being here.